I completely disagree that Web3 is behind with UX. I think that ultimately, as someone who's hiring engineers, the engineers that I'm looking for have the same exact skills as a Web2 engineer. They're still using React, HTML, CSS, all those same technologies that you do use to build out Web2, you're using to build out Web3. The difference comes with having a wallet and remembering your seed phrases and just that education level. I'd say it's more of an education gap than it is necessarily UX.
You're going to listen to a very short and smart episode with Lisa. She leads product design and engineering at Unstoppable Domains. This conversation is like an intersection between Web3, identity, and good product UX. I really hope you enjoy the conversation. I'm your host, Diksha, and you're listening to Web3 Quest. What makes you a believer in Web3?
I didn't really know what Web3 was when I was approached by Unstoppable, and I was like, okay, I need to find out what is Web3. I knew what Web2 was. I knew what, regular life was as a consumer out there on the internet every single day of my life. And the more I learned about Web3, the more excited I got for it. This idea that users own their data and can take that data with them wherever they go, as well as own the assets that they have online, right? Every engagement, every interaction, every experience that you have makes you, and you can bring that with you wherever you go. So from that standpoint, I absolutely believe that we as individuals should own these pieces of who we are.
Yeah, that makes, actually, it is the most relatable use case of Web3. And so that comes to, and that's the very reason that you're with Unstoppable Domains, because it talks about this value. So how do you explain Unstoppable Domains to anybody from the Web2 world? How do you say, what do you do? And once you explain that, also tell us, how does your day look like at UD?
Sure. Yeah. So if I'm explaining Unstoppable to someone in Web3, it's really about, we're an NFT, just like any other NFT, except for we're all about identity. So you've got your domain name, which represents you, and that domain name can store a bunch of records on it. So you could store your name, your email, your profile, your description. Think of it as all the LinkedIn data about you, as well as your personal stuff too. If you wanted to save all the events you've gone to, the tickets, those experiences, all of that becomes like a backpack within your digital identity so that you own it, as it can be referenced from that domain name, that name. If I'm explaining it to someone in Web 2, their first instinct is, okay, it's a website. You're hosting a website. If I go to lisa.x, I'm going to see, maybe your profile information or things about you. And I think for me, the disconnect there is that people don't necessarily understand that today they don't own their data. And when they're posting things on websites, or even if they have a handle within a social media site, that's very specific to that website, and you can't take it with you. You can't bring the pictures that you have to some other new experience. So that's a good way of describing the disconnect, that people don't realize that data isn't theirs to bring around and take with them as they want. And as far as my day-to-day at Unstoppable, I lead product and engineering and design, so helping to shape the future of what is digital identity at Unstoppable Domains.
So let's ask a simple question. What does digital identity mean to you? And what does actually Web3 brings to this word, digital identity?
Yeah, going back, I spent most of my career at a big enterprise tech company and worked on a solution called the Digital Twin Exchange. And that was all about creating a digital twin of a physical thing. So the idea that, this product, an ebook, for example, that's a great example of a digital twin, because you could have a paper book that you're reading through, and an ebook is just that version of the physical copy of the book that you have. And where it gets interesting is if you are manipulating that digital item and the real life item changes as well, right? I'm changing the ebook to page 9, and somehow that real book changes to page 9. That's very difficult to do. You need a lot of sensors, a lot of IoT, a lot of things to kind of engage and make sure that the digital and the physical are married. They're exactly the same, no matter which state you're looking at. And when it comes to digital identity, that's the idea, is it's a digital twin of who you are as an individual. So everything you do in real life now becomes digitally available to use and to represent you to make your life better, right? Your experience will be more tailored to you. Think of it as the AI and machine learning, going to sites and being able to say, oh, this person's a dog owner and, they're in their 40s and they have kids. That kind of experiences and information about you makes your experience better on whatever site you're visiting.
And what, in terms of your job, your job is to make the product better. And in Web3, I think it's a big challenge. Actually, UX is a big challenge, but I don't see that whenever I use unstoppable domains. So congrats on that. What have been like the few milestones to build this product over the last 1 year? Like if you have to look back, okay, we were this, then we went on our first milestone, now we are doing this. This is our challenge. How do you look back at the last 1 year in building the product?
Yeah. Our team is incredibly talented. We've got over 3.7 million domains that have been registered so far. So lots of people excited and bought into what we're doing with identity. We have over 870 live integrations. So these are the websites that are starting to pull that information from your profile or resolving your domain name to look up your blockchain records. And all of that is really exciting because it shows that community is growing. And then on top of all that, we are moving forward with digital identity through things like our profile pages. So if you go to ud.me/lisa.x, you can see mine. And it's got all sorts of information. So you can pull the tokens, every asset that I own is all shown in one location, kind of like my business card. So I can pass it to you and you can go see everything about me. And it's all verified from that transparency that blockchain brings. So you can see everything I own, all the communities I'm participating in. We launched badges, which is basically a visual representation that you're part of a bigger group or community related to the NFTs that you own. We pull in social verifications as well. So you can see my Twitter handle and how many followers I have. And that same kind of information, like aggregating of data, can then be shared too with partners if you want to log into the site and have that customized experience I mentioned before. All of that is capable through our Unstoppable product.
And how do you ensure the Web3 values in terms of collecting data and privacy preserving when you're making something, considering you're definitely collecting some data. So how do you ensure privacy preserved in this?
Great question. So when you buy your domain, you go to unstoppabledomains.com and you'll see a little button to manage. So it's up to you what you want to share or what you don't want to share. You can even set the privacy filter to where maybe you don't want it to be publicly available, but you want to pick and choose which applications you're willing to share it with. And you can revoke access to. So if you previously said, yeah, you can have this data about me, you can go back and say, no, you can't have my email, or yes, you can't have my Twitter handle, whatever that happens to be. So all of that is absolutely controlled by the user. And at any time, they can go back in and change their minds.
And also now that you showed me, and I saw your profile page today because I was asking Nora before our interview. So as the product evolves, who do you think that Unstoppable domain is competing with in the Web3 space, especially when Web3 social is also growing very fast? Personally, I feel that as a content creator, I have so many choices now to have a profile at different places. So if you look at the competitive landscape from the product angle, what are the different use cases and brands that come to your mind? And how is UD different? Yes.
Yeah. I love competition in Web3, especially because the more people are building out their data in different avenues, the more they're starting to bring who they are to Web3. And so your data that you're going to add to some profile somewhere else could be pulled into your NFT that is your Unstoppable domain profile. So absolutely, I think more people need to feel comfortable sharing their data and using other sites beyond just what we're doing with Unstoppable. That said, I think we're building a ton of value that are going to get people to want to come back. Right. So things like being able to log in without a password, being able to say, I'm going to use my domain name, and then I could sign on my mobile device so I can quickly get in and out of websites. That's something that we're not necessarily seeing with some of the competitors out there. And just the idea that you can have multiple different TLDs that represent you. So if you wanted to have .wallet because you want to engage with more of the crypto trading, then you can have that versus maybe a .x, which represents your identity and who you are. So the idea that you can have these multiple profiles as well as building out the additional value that we're calling our identity profile, that kind of stuff is all good stuff.
In these 3.7 million domains, which are the highest ones? Like, give us a sense of the distribution of, what do you say, the addresses? Yeah. Which are the most popular, second popular, least popular?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's all public. If you go to dune.com, for example, and look at UNS, you can see the distribution. So I'm looking right now, but total domain names, you can see .crypto is our highest with almost 1 million TLDs registered with .crypto, and then .NFT and .wallet. So again, lots of different use cases. We're seeing brands excited as well. So they'll have a custom brand like .finance US that just came out. So .hi, .creasis, those kind of ones that are available. So exciting stuff.
And I think on .crypto, so are the services that all these addresses offer the same? Because I know that I bought Diksha Dutta .crypto a year ago. I haven't tried it this year, but at that time I could only build a website on it on Brave. And what's kind of been the product development on that side? And why do you actually have limitations with some addresses? Like,
it's really more about the browser and whether the browser wants to resolve that domain name, because ultimately it's looking up an IPFS location. So if you go to lisa.x, I'm just redirecting, in my case, to my Web2 domain. And I have a plugin for Chrome so that I can resolve any of our unstoppable domains within Chrome. But then there's some browsers that are more Web3 friendly, and they by default can, understand what that Web3 domain name is. And that's why Brave is one you mentioned. Opera is a good one. I mentioned the Chrome extension. So it's really just about getting the browsers on board on how to actually do the resolution, because it's pretty easy. It's just looking up the blockchain record to know where to point. We just need those big browser companies to support it.
And how far are we from that, like in terms of industry dynamics, or what are the limitations? Why do browsers don't want to be friendly to this?
I don't think they don't want to be, and we're in active conversation. So you asked about the next 10 years and what it looked like with Unstoppable. Absolutely. I think that all Web3 domains will definitely resolve in 10 years.
Yeah. So how do you ensure community feedback into your product? Like, as a product lead, somebody who's taking care of all this, how do you ensure that feedback keeps coming in and then you're able to put it into the product?
That's my favorite thing about Web3. Just yesterday, we had a whale call. So whales are our big holders of our unstoppable domains, and we got feedback from them on what they thought of our recent announcements and some of the products that have been announced. But yeah, whales calls for sure, Twitter, Discord, we do social all the time. We get great feedback just from our customer support. So people come in and hit the little button to request information about what we're doing. Definitely my favorite part of Web3 is that people feel like they're part of the mission of Unstoppable, and they want to see us be successful.
So is it, now when you look at feedback in the Web2 space and look at feedback in Web3, what are the main differences in collecting feedback?
Huge difference. I love it. Like Web3, like I said, people feel like they own their unstoppable domain because they do. It's theirs forever. And so they want it to be successful. They want to see the value that they would love to see out of Unstoppable, and they're willing to share it with a group. I think Web2, there's definitely some of that, but it's in pockets. It depends on where you work. And because of that ownership aspect of Web3, it's more prevalent.
When you look at the industry in general in Web3 right now, what do you think are the 3 biggest challenges when it comes to product UX? I mean, not just unstoppable domains, but overall as an industry. I mean, 10 years, and it's not just you, I attended a panel that day, and one of the product design lead at a company said that, we are just like a decade away from, or maybe 20 years away from being as good as what Web2 is right now with UX. So yeah. So what are the 3 biggest challenges that you see in UX right now?
Yeah, I don't know if I have 3, but I completely disagree that Web3 is behind with UX. I think that ultimately, as someone who's hiring engineers, the engineers that I'm looking for have the same exact skills as a Web 2 engineer. They're still using, React, HTML, CSS, all those same technologies that you do use to build out Web 2, you're using to build out Web 3. The difference comes with signing and having a wallet and remembering your seed phrases and just that education level. I'd say it's more of an education gap than it is necessarily UX. And there are companies that are starting to innovate. We're innovating in this space right now. If you were to go to buy an unstoppable domain and you don't know what a wallet is, you don't have one, you can use our vault solution. So we'll hold on to your domain for you without you having to go figure out how to create a wallet. So I think that educational gap is starting to be, limited when it comes to how people are building in Web3. And before people know it, they won't know they're using Web3 and they'll be using it behind the scenes.
What are the qualities that you would look for in a product and or engineering, like two separately people, if you want to hire them in a Web3 company? Let's say you want to hire them in unstoppable domains. What are the qualities you would look for? And they are in Web2 right now. So,
okay. Same things I'd look for in Web 2. Someone who is not afraid to roll up their sleeves, an innovator, someone who's asking questions and going and learning, right? Because ultimately, Web 3 hasn't been around that long. And so the pocket of people that are experts are limited. So we very much look for people that are willing to learn and try out new things and are self-starters versus the people that say they have expertise in Web 3.
And do you feel that there are adaptation challenges once you come from Web 2 to Web 3? And also, I think personally, I really want to know your story more as well, your personal professional journey, because you were at IBM for a long time and then you joined Unstoppable Domains. So in terms of culture fit and the changes, tell us about oh, yay, I was very happy about this. And oh, this is the part I missed about probably, that life. So
they're so different and also so the same, right? Everything you learn along your career, you can take with you to whatever the next job is that you have. At IBM, I was really lucky. I bounced around to new technologies, emerging tech. At the end, I was part of our AI applications business unit, doing some IoT work, big industrial use cases. So that was a ton of fun learning new tech. But that's the same now in Web3. I'm learning new technologies. It's how smart contracts work and more about the blockchain side of things. I do think being part of a startup is very different than big enterprise tech, and just how fast we are launching products and getting feedback and iterating and pivoting and going in new directions is something that I, relish. I had wished I'd done this sooner because it's just so much fun.
Yeah. And what are the pluses of having a setup that you had earlier? So this is the good part, that things are moving faster and you're iterating, and yeah. So what about that?
There's definitely pluses and minuses to every job I've ever had, right? Sometimes there's more processes in place when you're at a big company, more checks and balances as far as releasing new products. So that speed in which you can innovate's a little bit slower. That said, I was lucky at IBM and I did get to launch startups within the big company. So we were moving fast and I had a little bit of that startup kind of forgiveness and as far as launching new products quickly. So everything that I learned from IBM, I'm able to take with me to the things and the approaches that we have with products and releasing things within Unstoppable.
So we have two questions from Twitter. One is that I have to ask you that where do you see Unstoppable Domains in the next 10 years?
Hopefully we have over 1 billion domains in people's hands and it becomes that common how you engage across the entire internet. You use your domain, your Web3 NFT that brings you with you wherever you go. My hope is it becomes so common that that's how people engage with all websites, not just Web3. That's what I see for the future.
And the second question is around ENS integration and, Unstoppable Domains offering ENS domains as well. So what were the values and the idea behind doing this, and give us a little bit of background that how did this happen and how is this going to change things, if at all, for unstoppable domains?
Yeah, we want to be that one-stop shop where you go for Web3 identity, and that ETH is that, the next next big company besides Unstoppable Domain where people are going and they're exploring and they're getting their domain. So why not offer it? Behind the scenes, we actually call their smart contract. So we are, promoting their community. We believe that all of us together, everyone in Web3 should be thinking about identity. So we love that there's .eth and as well as all the TLDs that we're offering as well. Ultimately, I think it's been really positive following the Twitter response to what we're doing. Ultimately, there's a big difference between ENS domains and our unstoppable domains. The biggest being gas prices and the fact that you don't own your domain, so you have to rent it. So every year you have to pay that renewal, which people are used to in a Web2 world, but it kind of goes against the ethos of Web3 and ownership. So it's fun to see how, our people are responding to us selling .eth, and it'll be fun to see what the next few months bring.
I think that's the first thing that came to my mind, that it's something that, you have to rent every year, and whatever was being offered on unstoppable domains was just like a one-time payment, and then you just forget about it, that you also have to pay again.
And we're trying to make that easier on users with .eth, right? So you can have a vault. So if you don't want to have your own wallet, you can keep it in our vault, as well as the auto renewals. So a lot of people forget to renew their ENS domains, and then when it comes up for renewal, they lose it forever. So what we're doing is we automate that renewal process, so you can use a credit card and say every year, automatically pay for this new domain renewal.
Yeah, I think we still have to integrate some Web2 elements. We can't ignore it if we have to onboard more people. So, want to get a little bit on your life outside UD here. You wrote 2 books, and they are children books. And first of all, how did you find the time to do it with such a busy life? And secondly, why did you choose these topics?
Yeah. So I have 2 sets of twins. And when my boys were born, my oldest are boys, I got a ton of books that were like memorizing how to count to 10. It's like, there's 1 rabbit. Now there's 2 rabbits, that kind of thing. It wasn't actually teaching you about the decimal system. It was really more about memorizing 1 to 10. And as a computer scientist, I went to Carnegie Mellon University and I did not memorize binary. And it was kind of one of those silly things where it's like in my head, I'm trying to calculate binary, and I wished I had memorized even from 0 to 10 in binary. So I thought it'd be fun to write my first kids' book, which is called A Robot Story, Learn to Count to 10 in Binary, for my kids. And so I wrote up the little story, a little rhyming story, and found an illustrator. I tried to do the illustrations myself, and it was way too hard. So I found an illustrator on Facebook from Latvia, and I reached out to him, and he was willing to do the illustrations. I did a Kickstarter campaign and distributed my books around the world. So it was a really fun process. But ultimately, it was to teach people how to memorize counting from 0 to 10 in binary.
And how was the process of writing it? Because it's quite a daunting process to write a book. I think most people say that, oh, I wish I hadn't started. So how was that for you, finding time for it, like a routine? Did you do it every day? Did you put a deadline for yourself, or what was your process?
I think I wrote the whole thing in a weekend, because I was like, I started a little rhyme and then it was done. And I didn't even do the illustration. So it really wasn't that hard. The time-consuming part was managing the Kickstarter campaign and responding to people's questions as they came in, filming a little video. But it was all fun. It was a learning process. I'd always wanted to write a book. I learned about ISBN numbers and how to, get publishers and do some print copies and how that whole process works. So ultimately an awesome learning experience. But I was self-published. I didn't go and try to find an actual publisher to bring my book to life other than
you
my
did it
10,000.
You did it the Web3 way, I think
Exactly.
that's how. Yeah, why would
Cut out
you
the middleman? Yeah. Yeah.
And why would you pay like 70% to a publisher? And also, you did it like pre-Chat GPT days, and you still finished it in a weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, you definitely have some superpowers. So,
I
and
should
tell us.
rewrite it with Chat GPT. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think like with ChatGPT, I don't know. Now when I just see content, I just know it whether when it's written by ChatGPT. It's
Mhm.
maybe we need like different prompts to have different kind of content across. So and what does your day look like now? Like what is your morning routine? What are your productivity hacks? What is your working style?
You know, we've got stand-ups. I try to join some of each of the different pods teams to stand-ups to see what they're doing. I stay close with the leadership team to make sure we're communicating amongst ourselves. I do what I call a desk of recording every couple of weeks just to broadcast out some of the things that are top of mind so the group's all on the same page. Definitely, my calendar's not too bad. It's definitely easier, more manageable than Web 2 days, a lot of async. So we use Loom videos and pre-record things that everyone can watch at 2x speed. Or all over the world at Unstoppable. So it's really nice to have tools like Slack to be able to communicate with people no matter where they are.
And when it comes to product right now, what is your next big goal to take UD at?
Oh, we've got so many fun things in the works. We already pre-announced messaging, so that'll be coming out soon. But P2P messaging, a lot of Web3 companies are starting to think about it. So our differentiation is really more of that community side that I talked about before with your identity and like the token gating aspect of which communities are you involved in. We're definitely looking into that. We're improving our .eth integrations and some of the functionality that UD uniquely brings to .eth. So tons of cool stuff in the works. I think those are the main ones I can talk about, but keep an eye on what we're doing.
And do you think that token will, I know you might get this question like asked too many times, but is like token something that will ever fit into the model of unstoppable domains, or having a token doesn't make sense?
Yeah, no, not at this time. We've been asked that question quite a bit, but no tokens in the near future.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's actually always good to see a project, without tokens and, still having a strong use case. I think another one is Nathan. We ask this to them also a lot of times. So now we have the rapid fire with some quick questions. So I'm going to start now.
Okay.
So, which is the first NFT you bought?
Surge Women.
And how many do you own now?
I have 2.
2. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to go on a dinner with a Web3 OG or just a Web3 personality, who would it be and why?
I'm going to go with Sandy Carter, our COO. She's amazing. And I feel like everyone is vying for her attention. She's at so many conferences all over and definitely hard to nail her down, but she is amazing and knows so many people. So definitely Sandy Carter.
Okay. So is this the, I hope the next answer is maybe the same or different. I would encourage you to give a different answer to the next. So who's like your sort of role model, woman in tech?
So I can't use Sandy, huh? There's so many. I was blessed at IBM. We had a lot of senior women that were great role models, especially as an aspiring tech individual. And let me think. I love Jenny Rometty. She was amazing. She was a former CEO of IBM and kind of spent time on individuals. I had a couple one-on-one conversations with her, which is amazing. And she just was inspiring hearing her story.
So what is it that you learned from her that was very inspiring?
Her big thing is comfort and growth don't coexist. So this idea that you have to stretch yourself and put yourself out there in order to grow in your career.
And what is the best life advice you've actually gotten from somebody that you apply almost every day?
One of my first mentors ever at IBM, his name was Sam Adams, and he had a little saying, this little card in his office, and it said, ask for forgiveness, not permission. And I like to think about that, especially in the startup world. It's like, go do it. Don't be afraid to go try things. Sometimes when you actually do it, then other people can understand what it is that you're trying to pitch. So you got to try a number of times before you're successful, but it's really good to just go out there and do things.
Yeah. A/B test, like keep doing, trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the weirdest feature you've ever added to a product or ever been asked to add to a product? And what was it?
Yeah. The funniest, I don't know if this is funny, but a customer support ticket that we got recently was we had changed the UI a little bit where you were logging in, and we had removed email and password and just had a little button that had a picture of an envelope. And people were so confused. We had multiple support tickets where they didn't understand how to log in anymore because there was no email and password field. So we ended up reversing it and going back to make it very explicit where you enter your email and password, but not super funny as far as a feature, but it was interesting to see how people react and how support can trickle from your ideas.
Nice. Okay, this is a little twisted. If you had to pick a fictional character to be a product manager for a okay, let's say if you had to pick a fictional character to be a product manager for unstoppable domains, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know it's true. It's like deep. It's funny, but
It's
deep.
very deep. Yeah. Well, I got little girls right now, so definitely Elsa, right? We need someone with some magic. Point our finger and things happen. So I'll go with Elsa.
Okay, cool. I have a huge list here. I'm like, okay, so this is the last one. If you could only use one emoji to describe the product management process, which emoji would it be? I don't even know how will you explain the emoji, but it's a podcast.
My favorite one is the star eyes, starstruck, because everything the team's doing is amazing, and I'm always starstruck at what they do.
Is that the one you use the most on Slack?
For sure. No, don't relate to products. There's some others being used. Definitely starstruck. I also like the rocket ship, so we use the rocket quite a bit.
Yeah,
and the fire. The fire is also a common one.
Yeah, that's like the rocket is the Web3's favorite, I think, right? To the moon. And then there's this rocket.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I said the last, but still. So what the last one is actually, which book are you reading right now? Or if you're not, like, which is the last one that you read? And would you recommend others to read it too?
I need to read a book. I haven't read one recently, but I loved Think Again by Adam Grant. He is so good. I love all the advice that he gives, just very motivational. So Adam Grant, follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and get all of his books. I think he's got a new one coming out.
Okay, sure. So we have a book recommendation from you as well. Over the weekend, we'll check it out. And thank you, Lisa. It was so much fun talking to you. We got a lot of ground covered in a short span of time, and looking forward to more product updates from Unstoppable Domains.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.